At Vodafone, save £792 with the Google Pixel 9. Plus, with Circle to Search, you can instantly search anything on your phone without switching apps, only on Android. Hurry, deal ends 17th of April. Go online or in-store today. Vodafone.
I've been thinking, I want to plan my funeral so it feels more like a celebration. My parents always said I was born dancing. I just love it. Bhangra, disco, even line dancing. So when my time comes, I want to have music, dancing, the lot.
With over 150 years' experience, you can count on Co-op Funeral Care to help you pre-plan the funeral you want. To find out more, visit Co-op Funeral Care or give us a call.
In today's interconnected world, India's voice is more crucial than ever. When India speaks, the world listens. At NDTV World, we are that voice, bringing you intelligent and insightful news from India and beyond. From geopolitics and diplomacy to economic shifts, migrations, tech disruptions, and the stories of our diaspora. We cover the news that shapes our global future. NDTV World, your new home for global news is here.
From interesting tech startups to industry-leading companies, politics, sports, culture, curry, cricket. Oh, there's so much to talk about. Like me, if you too thrive on interesting conversations, this is a show you cannot miss. Watch this space to know more about all matters and all people that make Britain what it is today. Out of Britain, with me, Radhika Iyer.
This is NDTV, and you're watching NDTV 24/7.
Hello and welcome to this Monday edition of the World Report with me, Arjun, Samar, Mahendran. Let's take a look at what's making headlines around the world. Crucial talks between US and Russian officials on a possible peace deal in Ukraine are taking place currently in Saudi Arabia. Meanwhile, there were separate talks between Ukraine and the US in Saudi, which Ukraine's defense minister called productive and focused. Meanwhile, US and Ukrainian officials resumed ceasefire negotiations on Sunday as a top US envoy voiced optimism for a potential breakthrough. A day before ceasefire talks between Russia and Ukraine in Saudi Arabia, US Special Envoy Steve Witkoff said he believed Russian President Vladimir Putin wants peace. Now, speaking to Fox News Sunday, Witkoff said he did not believe fears that Putin was in fact after more territory in Eastern Europe. Witkoff said, "I just don't see that he wants to take all of Europe. This is a much different situation, in fact, than it was in World War I and World War II. There was no NATO." Meanwhile, Ukraine and Russia are expected to hold indirect US-mediated talks on Monday, which are actually ongoing, to in fact discuss a pause in long-range attacks targeting energy facilities and civilian infrastructure. Listen in.
I feel that he wants peace. The president had two very productive calls this week. Or last week, I should say, one with President Zelensky, one with President Putin. I sat and listened to both of them. In both conversations, it was all about a lasting peace. Lots of progress got made last week, and I simply have said that I just don't see that he wants...
There was an attack on Kiev ahead of ceasefire negotiations, in fact, in Saudi Arabia. According to reports, 3 people, including a 5-year-old child, were killed and 10 others were injured in Russia's latest drone attack. Moscow, in fact, launched 147 drones across Ukraine. Now, this is according to the Ukrainian Air Force. Meanwhile, Kiev's air defenses shot down 97 and 25 other drones did not reach their targets due to Ukrainian countermeasures. Canada's new Prime Minister Mark Carney has moved to dissolve Parliament and trigger a snap election, in fact, on the 28th of April. The widely anticipated decision kicks off an election race less than 2 weeks after Carney took up his post, succeeding Justin Trudeau at a time of soaring tensions, in fact, with the US. Listen in to what Mark Carney, in fact, had to say.
There is so much more to do to secure Canada, to invest in Canada, to build Canada, to unite Canada. That's why I'm asking for a strong, positive mandate from my fellow Canadians. I've just requested that the Governor-General dissolve Parliament and call an election for April 28th. And she has agreed. I'm asking Canadians for a strong, positive mandate to deal with President Trump and to build a new Canadian economy that works for everyone. Because I know we need change. Big change. Positive change. You see, my generation was fortunate. For us, there were more opportunities and life was more affordable. You had to work hard, but you could get ahead. That was the bargain. But for the generations that have followed, they're working just as hard or even harder than we did. But they're struggling to pay the rent, to put groceries on the table, and to save for their kids' education.
More than 50,000 Palestinians, in fact, have now been killed in the war between Israel and Hamas in Gaza, the territory's health ministry has said. This as new Israeli airstrikes killed at least 26 Palestinians overnight, including a Hamas political leader and several women and children, as claimed by Gaza's health ministry. And the true toll could be much higher, in fact, with many thousands believed to still be under the rubble.
Palestinian health officials say the death toll from Israel's war in Gaza has now reached 50,000 people. This is a staggering number in Gaza. It amounts to roughly 2.5% of the territory's 2 million people, and those numbers appear likely only to go higher. Israel resumed the war last week with a surprise wave of strikes that abruptly ended a 2-month ceasefire. The Palestinians say hundreds of people have died in the past week alone. Israel says it's targeting Hamas militants and installations, and one of those killed on Sunday was a well-known Hamas leader, but hospital officials say that scores of women and children are also among the dead. Israel, for the time being, shows no signs of slowing down. In addition to the airstrikes, it's pressing ahead with ground incursions across Gaza. These operations have been accompanied by new orders for people to evacuate. In many cases, these are people who only recently returned to the rubble of their former homes during the ceasefire. Israel also says it has formed a new administration to help Gaza Palestinians leave the territory. That is part of President Donald Trump's controversial plan to empty the territory of its Palestinian population and have the U.S. take ownership. The renewal of the war has prompted mass demonstrations in Israel. Tens of thousands of people have taken to the streets in recent days, and among their concerns is that this renewed fighting could threaten the safety of hostages still in Gaza. The Israeli government says that military pressure is needed to bring home the hostages, but the protesters, along with many of the hostage families, want the ceasefire restored. They say that time is running out for a negotiated solution to bring home the roughly 24 living hostages still in Gaza. The war has also threatened to reignite fighting across the region. On Saturday, Israel struck targets in Lebanon in response to a barrage of rocket fire. And early Sunday, the Houthi militant group in Yemen launched another long-range missile at Israel. Israel has intercepted a series of missiles, but these daily attacks have set off air raid sirens and added to a very tense atmosphere across the country.
According to Houthi-controlled media, several people were injured, including children, after alleged U.S. strikes hit Sana'a in Yemen on Sunday night. Footage from an Ansar Allah media office, the Houthis' media arm, in fact, showed a collapsed building in the rebel-held capital Sana'a with Yemen civil defense workers at the scene. On Wednesday, U.S. President Donald Trump wrote on his Truth Social website that Yemen's Houthi rebels will be completely annihilated. The Houthi rebels, meanwhile, have attacked over 100 merchant vessels with missiles and drones, sinking 2 and killing 4 sailors. This is from November 2023 until January 2025, when a ceasefire, in fact, began in Gaza. Protesters clashed with police during a protest outside Istanbul's city hall Sunday night over the arrest of the city's mayor, a key rival to Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan. The demonstrators were seen with flares as, in fact, police attempted to disperse them with pepper spray. And earlier in the day, a court formally arrested Mayor Ekrem İmamoğlu and ordered him, in fact, jailed him pending the outcome of a trial on corruption charges. Now, his detention Wednesday morning sparked the largest wave of street demonstrations in Turkey in more than a decade, with large crowds gathering outside City Hall for the fifth straight night in a row. It has also deepened concerns over democracy and the rule of law in the country. His imprisonment is widely regarded as a political move, in fact, to remove a major contender from the next presidential race, currently scheduled for 2028. Meanwhile, government officials reject the accusations and insist that Turkey's courts operate independently. A 24-year-old Indian woman and a 56-year-old father were shot dead at a departmental store in America's Virginia, where they had been working, in fact. The shooting took place on Thursday, shortly after the store in Accomack County opened. Police have arrested George Frazier Devon Wharton, 44 years old, for the double murder. Now, according to reports, the accused reached the store early Thursday morning to buy liquor and asked why the store was shut at night. He then opened fire at the father-daughter duo. While Pradeep Patel died on the spot, his daughter Urmi succumbed to her injuries at the hospital. More from the US now, where more than 25 million people across 10 states are under red flag warnings for the threat of wildfires. That's correct. Much of the fire threat stretches across the central US, but parts of the southeast are also, in fact, under an elevated risk, according to authorities. 3 major wildfires that broke out in one North Carolina county, still recovering from Hurricane Helene, have exploded to burn more than 3,000 acres combined. Now, this as South Carolina's governor has declared an emergency in response to a growing wildfire in the Blue Ridge Mountains area of the state. Meanwhile, South Korea's constitutional court has ruled to strike down the impeachment of Prime Minister Han Duck-soo and restore his powers, marking the latest twist in the country's political turmoil after his impeachment as acting president more than 2 months ago. Now, Han took over as acting leader from President Yoon Suk-yeol, who was himself impeached over his short-lived declaration of martial law last year. Listen in.
대한민국이 합리화, 상식의 시대로 나아갈 수 있도록 오로지 나라와 국민 전체를 바라보며 제가 들어야 할 모든 목소리를 듣겠습니다. 대한민국이 지금의 위기 국면을 헤치고 다시 한번 위와 앞을 향해 도약할 수 있도록 여야의 초당적 협조를 간곡히 부탁드립니다. 감사합니다.
US Vice President J.D. Vance's wife, Usha Vance, will travel to Greenland this week. Now, this comes as President Donald Trump clings to the idea of a US annexation of the strategic semi-autonomous Danish territory. The delegation will return to the US on the 29th of March. The White House National Security Advisor Mike Waltz and the Energy Secretary Chris Wright will also travel to Greenland, visiting a US military base in Greenland, a US official said. Now, Trump has made US annexation of Greenland a major talking point since taking office for a second time on the 20th of January earlier this year. And in fact, he's also said Greenland will become part of the US one way or the other. Pope Francis has appeared at his window of a hospital in Rome and offered a blessing for the first time since being admitted on the 14th of February. The 88-year-old pontiff was discharged minutes later, and doctors say he will need at least 2 months of rest at the Vatican. During the past 5 weeks, the Pope presented 2 very critical episodes where his life was in danger. One of the doctors treating the Pope said. Former U.S. Republican Mia Love of Utah, a daughter of Haitian immigrants who became the first black Republican woman elected to Congress, died Sunday. She was 49 years old. Now, Love's family posted news of her death on Love's X account. She had been undergoing treatment for brain cancer, and her daughter said earlier this month that Love, the former lawmaker, was no longer responding to treatment. She had been receiving immunotherapy as a part of clinical trial at Duke University's Brain Tumor Center. Love entered politics in 2003 after winning a seat on the city council in Saratoga Springs. It's a growing community about 30 miles or 48 kilometers south of Salt Lake City in Utah. She later became the city's mayor. As time we slip into a short break, I'll see you on the other side.
At AJ Bell, we're all about making investing easy. Open an award-winning ISA today in under 15 minutes. AJ Bell, feel good investing.
Whatever you need to ask about cancer, Macmillan's free support line is just a call away.
Hello, Macmillan.
Whether it's money,
am I going to lose my job?
Getting on with life,
can I still go abroad? Get insurance?
Or just need someone to listen.
How do I tell them?
Our specialist advisors are here to help as often as you need them. Whatever you need to ask, cancer, money, life, call us now on 0808 134 1000.
At Direct Line, we know that for multi-property landlords, sometimes the tiniest of things can turn into way bigger problems. From niggly contract issues to keeping up with ever-changing legislation. That's why Direct Line's landlord insurance offers a 24/7 legal helpline as standard. Because a call with someone could help to make the hairiest of problems feel that little bit smoother. Search Direct Line Landlord Insurance. We're on it.
No child should suffer the torture of trachoma. But so many are in pain right now. Nananga's lashes have turned inwards. They rip and tear away at his eyes. Pamelo's sight could be gone forever. He's just 3 years old. Kofanga screams for his mother. His eyes are so infected that he can't even see her. For so many children in the world's poorest countries, trachoma is torture. It's a painful infection often spread by flies, and it's destroying children's eyesight. But it could be stopped if you help today. By calling 0800 038 4926 and giving £1 a week to Sightsavers, you can help make sure children get the treatment they desperately need. You'll help us bring them the medicines and the care that can treat infections. And that means you'll be helping to save children from the torture of trachoma and a life of blindness. Please help us reach them. Call 0800 038 4926. Text C13 to 82727 or go online and give just £1 a week now. Because we need you to help save the sight of children like Nananga. We need you to help save them from the torture of trachoma.
We know travel can be confusing, so let us inspire you. Welcome to Qatar. Experience it all. World-class hospitality, diverse landscapes from city to sea, and fly there with the Airline of the Year 2022, Qatar Airways. Book now at travelup.com or call 0207 580 5000. Travel Up, flights, hotels, holidays.
Welcome back. You're watching the World Report on NDTV. China sought to reassure foreign corporate chiefs of the country's business potential when Vice Premier He Feng met with the heads of Apple, Pfizer, MasterCard, Cargill and others on Sunday. A Commerce Ministry statement, in fact, also said that Li Feng also met with pharmaceutical firm Eli Lilly, medical device company Medtronic and specialty glassmaker Corning. Now, Beijing is in fact keen to woo foreign investment amid heightened geopolitical tensions. This as policymakers try to boost domestic consumption in a slowing economy to offset the impact of Donald Trump's US tariffs.
Have you ever used the DeepSeek? The DeepSeek, of course.
US President Donald Trump awarded Boeing the contracts to build the US Air Force's most sophisticated fighter jet yet, handling the company a much-needed win and even boosting its shares. In fact, the next-gen air dominance program will replace Lockheed Martin's F-22 Raptor with a crewed aircraft built to enter combat alongside drones. Protests at Tesla dealerships across the US continued over the weekend, drawing hundreds of demonstrators calling for billionaire Elon Musk's ouster from the federal government, in fact. Now, Musk has been tasked by the Trump administration with cutting the country's federal funding and its workforce. In Boston, some 200 protesters held a peaceful demonstration on Saturday, even breaking out into song outside the Tesla showroom at the Prudential Center on Boylston Street. But attacks on property carrying the logo of Musk's electronic car company are cropping up across the US and overseas even. Several more violent incidents have included Cybertrucks being set on fire in Seattle and shots fired at a Tesla dealership in Oregon. Johnson & Johnson has laid out plans to raise US investments by 25% to more than $55 billion over the next 4 years as a threat of drug import duties by the Trump administration compels companies to expand their manufacturing operations domestically. Now, the pharmaceutical giant said on Friday it planned to build 4 new plants as part of its investment, one of which would be set up in Wilson, North Carolina, where it officially broke ground earlier in the day. Now, J&J did not disclose where it plans to build the other plants. Meanwhile, the 25% increase is compared to the company's investments in the past 4 years. At least 2 investors said most of these investments were already planned by the company. And oil prices slipped again on Monday as investors assessed the outlook for ceasefire talks aimed at ending, in fact, the Russia-Ukraine war, which could very possibly lead to an increase in Russian oil to global markets. Brent crude futures were down 25 cents, or 0.4%, at $71.91 a barrel. Meanwhile, US West Texas Intermediate crude fell 20 cents, or 0.3%, to $68.08. And the dollar drifted just below a 3-week high versus major peers on Monday as traders cautiously awaited clarity on US President Donald Trump's next round of tariffs, or the Tariff 2.0 round. The euro rose slightly following 3 straight sessions of declines, while the yen edged lower against the greenback, pressured by a rise in US Treasury yields. And the Indian Premier League season continues with an electrifying clash between Delhi Capitals and Lucknow Super Giants scheduled in Vizag Monday. Now, both teams will aim to kickstart their campaigns on a winning note. With new captains and revamped squads, Delhi Capitals versus Lucknow Super Giants match promises intense competition and a thrilling cricketing action, to say the least. Tiger Woods has confirmed that he is in fact in a relationship with Donald Trump's former daughter-in-law, Vanessa Trump. Now, Woods announced the news on Sunday. "Love is in the air and life is better with you by my side. We look forward to our journey through life together," Woods wrote on X to his 6.4 million followers. "At this time, we would appreciate privacy for all those close to our hearts." Vanessa was married to Donald Trump Jr. between 2005 and 2018. They have 5 children together, including 17-year-old Kai, who's set to play golf at the University of Miami in 2026. Kai also attends the same school as Woods' children, Sam and Charlie. In fact, Kai and Charlie competed at the same invitational tournament earlier this week. According to studio estimates, the Walt Disney Co.'s live-action controversy bedevilled Snow White opened in theaters with a sleepy $43 million in ticket sales. Now, with a budget above $250 million, Snow White had set out with higher ambitions, particularly since it returns Disney to its very origins. The 1937 original Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs was the company's first animated feature, and paid for its Burbank studio lot as well. But this Snow White struggled to find anything like a fairy tale ending or a fairy tale beginning in this case. The run-up to the release was plagued by controversies over the film's handling of the dwarfs, who are rendered in CGI, and also backlashes over comments by its star, Rachel Zegler. The PR headaches prompted Disney to even pull back on its premiere. Now, my colleague Abira joins us for more on this developing story. Abira, take our viewers through the many, many controversies and the downer of an opening Snow White has had. And, you know, what are fans feeling? What are the viewers feeling?
Let me take you first the budget of the film. So the budget of the film is approximately 250 million just to make the film. So you can understand what a big film this was, one of the biggest film of this year. But then what was estimated that the film should have earned in the opening weekend $45 to $55 million, but sadly, it has made only $43 million in the opening weekend, which was actually expected because of the controversies that were surrounding it. People had a lot of issues with the film. Let me take you through a timeline of it. It starts June 2021 when Zegler, the Rachel Zegler, who is the main lead in the film, casting sparks controversy. So she is a Latin descent actress, and her casting as Snow White did create a big controversy where people were questioning why would a Latin descent would be casted as a Snow White, which means her skin is supposed to be white as snow. So that starts the controversy. Then comes to January 2022, there was a debate on the remake use of dwarfs emerges. So basically, the dwarfs that were made in the film were not actors, they were CGI, and that was a controversy. Why would anybody do that? Because the dwarf actors raised an alarm about this, saying that we anyways do not have work, and this is just taking away more work from us. Then we go to September 2023. Zegler calls the 1937 Snow White outdated and criticized the love story as weird. So that was another controversy because that's her comment, and she got a backlash because of that comment. We came to August 2024, where a boycott was done because Gadot, that is Gal Gadot, who plays the evil queen, pro-Israel stance, did create a controversy. Again, Zegler also maintained that stance. She was pro-Israel, and that again created a big controversy. So these controversies surrounding the film is the reason why people maybe have boycotted the film and didn't go to watch the film at all.
Well, thank you so much for putting things into perspective for our viewers, Abira. Well, on that note, that's all we have for you today. Take care and have a wonderful Monday.
What are you so happy about?
I've just made a claim. We could be owed thousands.
My claim group?
Yeah, the cars we bought on finance, well, the lenders could have charged hidden commissions. It's dead simple to claim.
Hey, I had 2 cars before we met.
Go to My Claim Group. You could be owed thousands in hidden commissions from cars you bought on finance since 2007, even if you can't remember the details.
Done.
Simple, eh?
Go to My Claim Group now.
Claims made simple.
In People's Postcode Lottery's April draws, a share of £25.4 million must be won. Sign up before midnight on the 31st of March.
We know that water is a sacred gift. It gives life, gives health, and purifies. That's why it's shocking that so many families don't have the basics that we take for granted, like clean water and soap. This means they're much more likely to get deadly diseases like diarrhea and cholera. And it's often their kids that suffer the most. Today, over 800 children will die from dirty water, no proper toilet, or just because they can't wash their hands. This Ramadan, please donate your zakat and sadaqah to provide the gift of clean water. To donate, please search Water Aid Zakat. Your donation can help buy pipes and taps for clean water, bricks and cement for washing stations, and of course, soap. This Ramadan, please donate your zakat and sadaqah to give the gift of clean water to those families that need it most. To donate, please search Water Aid Zakat. Thank you.
Wouldn't life be so much easier if you could control your blinds at the touch of a button? With ultra smart blinds from Appeal, there's no chains, cords or wiring because these stylish blinds are driven by a rechargeable power pack. New ultra smart blinds from Appeal, the intelligent solution for home shading.
Say hello to the UK's most personalised Mother's Day card. And now get 20% off all cards this Mother's Day.
Moonpig.com. From interesting tech startups to industry-leading companies, politics, sports, culture, curry, cricket. Oh, there's so much to talk about. Like me, if you too thrive on interesting conversations, this is a show you cannot miss. Watch this space to know more about all matters and all people that make Britain what it is today. Out of Britain, with me, Radhika Iyer.
That's right. I am standing outside the venue of the demolition site. In fact, this is where the BMC officials had earlier conducted its demolition, but it happened inside, which is why we can't show the demolition at this point or the raised portion. It is inside. There were a bunch of officials who were carrying out demolition as a result of illegal construction that had taken place in this particular venue. This is what the officials are telling us. Yes, of course, as you said, politically, of course, this has snowballed into a huge controversy. Both Sena as well, both UBT Sena as well as Shinde Sena reacting very sharply. Uddhav Thackeray very categorically backing Kunal Kamra, saying that what he said were facts and there's nothing wrong in what he said. A Gaddar should be called a Gaddar. Also speaking about freedom of speech and expression. And if we were to go back to 5 years back when Kangana Ranaut's office was demolished, you know, there were debates on freedom of speech and expression as a result of what she said, what she spoke against the Mumbai police over Sushant Singh Rajput case, and certain comments made by her resulted in her office being demolished. So one is reminded of what happened in 2020. So there is a lot of hypocrisy that is being you know, displayed at this point, but the fact also remains that the law and order situation certainly is declining. The Sena leaders took law into their hands, vandalized this particular structure. Of course, they have been arrested. In most likelihood, the Sena leaders, members may be granted bail. But as far as action against Kunal Kamra is concerned, an FIR has been registered. In most likelihood, he will be questioned. We are also being given to understand that he was contacted and he spoke about how he stands by his statement. It is comedy, it is in a lighter vein that it must be taken, and he denied allegations of him being given any sort of money by the opposition leaders, because time and again Sena and the BJP leaders have been saying that there is conspiracy as far as this entire case is concerned, and that you know, Kunal Kamra conspired with the opposition, with the Congress party and UBT Sena in order to insult Deputy Chief Minister. So yes, a lot of action being taken, FIRs registered, legal action being taken, demolition happening at the venue, and of course the war of words continuing between the opposition and the ruling dispensation.
Right, Radhika. We also have Anuj joining us. Anuj, coming out strongly in support, of course, from what we heard, Uddhav Thackeray really backing the comments of Kunal Kamra in regard to, you know, what was really being said allegedly about Eknath Shinde. Take us through the others who seem to be backing Kunal Kamra and the kind of backing that, you know, the opposition is getting in the state.
You know, the entirety of the opposition is standing by the side of Kunal Kamra on this matter, is what we can see. We've seen that even since yesterday, when this entire matter came to light and video of the vandalizing act that took place in cars started circulating. That is when you know, tweets came in support of Kunal Kamra. It's not just politicians, but several several social activists from the state have also shown their support through social media or other means to Kunal Kamra. We saw Uddhav Thackeray make a very important category. Distinction between Gaddar Sena and Shiv Sena is what he referred to as, because you know, the claim over the name of Shiv Sena might have settled before the election as far as Election Commission is concerned, but the UBT faction still continues to play on the goodwill that the Thackeray family has created for all this while. And as a result of that, we saw Uddhav Thackeray stating it that you know, Shiv Senics shouldn't be associated with the vandalizing acts that took place in Khar yesterday, and that the people who did it, the section of people who did it, should be referred to as Gaddar Sena. At the same time, Uddhav Thackeray was also of the opinion that whatever has been going on in the political discourse of Maharashtra was simply put in a form of a song by Kunal Kamra and was performed. And the question of freedom of expression doesn't exist, is what he stated, because whatever has been said there by Kunal Kamra is reality. After that, his son and another important Shiv Sena UBT leader Aditya Thackeray also spoke, and in that, in that address to the media, he highlighted how, on several occasions Kunal Kamra has made critical comments on political leaders from across board, not just in Maharashtra, but also on the likes of Prime Minister Narendra Modi for almost 10 years now. But no one has reacted the way Eknath Shinde and his faction reacted since yesterday. And he also, took this opportunity to state that there was no name mentioned yesterday in that speech, and still it a particular section of political party got offended, and that according to Aditya Thackeray talks about the definition of Gaddar and Khuddar, something which Chief Minister Devendra Fadnavis also spoke about in the assembly. What is again important in Aditya Thackeray's address is that he said that this entire ploy seems to be something that has been put in place by Eknath Shinde in an attempt to undermine the powers of Home Minister and Chief Minister Devendra Fadnavis. He also went back to the example of what happened when the Nagpur issue was taken up in the assembly. When on one hand we had the Chief Minister giving an address on the Nagpur issue and giving updates about what the police officials were up to and what was the investigation up to, then the Deputy Chief Minister Eknath Shinde would give his own different kind of an address. And we know that this kind of a discourse has been going on about the position and the comfort that the senior leaders feel in their position, either as the Deputy Chief Minister or as the Chief Minister of the state. Aditya Thackeray took this opportunity to state that whatever happened last night doesn't seem to be an impulsive action, as has been pointed out by several Shiv Sena leaders who are stating that it was an emotional reaction. As against their belief, Aditya Thackeray stated that it was more of a pre-planned act that was put in place, after which we also saw the MPs and public representatives giving threats on television, which clearly undermines the power and the potential of the current Home Minister and Chief Minister Devendra Fadnavis.
Right, of course, Anuj, let's just go back to Radhika as well. And Radhika, demolition activity that has been seen, and these are BMC officials who were seen with hammers in their hands that reached the studio in car and carried out those demolition exercises. A delay as far as the violation for which the studio faced a demolition exercise are awaited. Now, coming out, of course, as we can see, this is a repercussion of what was really said. So it is the studio that is being vandalized, and there were BMC officials there. Of course, we did see this happen in regard to even the Shiv Sena leaders taking matters into their own hands, and there is a case that now action is